York was the greatest American hero of World War I. Born December 13, 1887, in a two-room dog-trot log cabin in Pall Mall, Tennessee, and raised in the rural backwaters of the northern section of Fentress County, York was a semi-skilled laborer when called up for the Army in 1917. Quite literally, having never traveled more than 50 miles from his home, York's war experience served as an epiphany, awakening him to a more multifaceted world. The third oldest of a family of 11 children, the York family eked out a hand-scrambled existence of subsistence farming supplemented by hunting, and York became a skilled expert shooter at an early age. Living in a region that saw little need for education, York had a total of 9 months of education at a subscription school he attended in his youth. York's father, William York, who died in 1911, also acted as a part-time blacksmith to provide some extra income for the family. Prior to the beginning of the First World War, York was working as a day laborer on the railroad near Harriman. As a result, York had little experience with managing money and later suffered from persistent financial problems. As York came of age, he earned a status as a deadly accurate shot and hellraiser. That reputation underwent a serious change when York experienced a religious exchange in 1914. In that year, he attended a revival conducted by H. Russell of the Church of Christ in Christian Union. The Church of Christ in Christian Union supported a strict moral code, which forbade drinking, dancing, movies, swimming, swearing, popular literature, and moral injunctions against violence and war. Though raised Methodist, York joined the Church of Christ in Christian Union and in the process convinced one of his best friends, Rosier Pyle, to join as well. The church brought York in contact with the girl who would later become his wife, Gracie Williams. York's conversion was sincere and complete. He quit drinking, gambling, and fighting. When the United States declared war on Germany, York's newfound faith would be tested. York received his draft notice from his friend, Rosier Pyle, on June 5, 1917. Because of the Church of Christ and Christian Union's proscription against war, Pyle encouraged York to seek conscientious objector status. York wrote on his draft card, "Don't want to fight." Though a would-be conscientious objector, drafted at age 30, York in many ways characterized the unfortunate, undereducated draft that traveled to France to keep the war safe from democracy. With great uncertainties, York embarked for Camp Gordon, Georgia, to receive his basic training. A member of the Company G in the 328th Infantry attached to the 82nd Division, also known as the All-American Division, York recognized himself as a curiosity, an excellent expert shooter who had no stomach for war. After weeks of debate and counseling, York gave in to his company commander, G. Edward Buxton, that there were times when war is ethical and intended by God, and he agreed to fight. York's role as hero went beyond his development in the Argonne and continues to both inspire and amaze. On October 8, 1918, Corporal Alvin C. York and 16 other soldiers under the command of Sergeant Bernard Early were sent off before sunrise to take command of the Decauville Railroad behind Hill 223 in the Châtel-Chehery sector of the Meuse-Argonne Division. After ordering the German soldiers to surrender, a machine gun opened fire, resulting in the deaths of 9 Americans, including York's best friend, Murray Savage. Sergeant Early received 17 bullet wounds and turned the command over to Corporals Harry Parsons and William Cutting, who ordered York to silence the machine gun. York was successful in silencing the machine gun, and when he was finished, 9 men had captured 132 prisoners. York never claimed that he acted alone, nor was he proud of what he did. 25 Germans lay dead, and by his accounting, York was responsible for at least 9 of the deaths. Largely unknown to most people was the fact that Alvin York returned to America with a single vision, understanding that to prosper in the modern world, an education was necessary. York sought to bring Fentress County into the 20th century. Yearning to return home and wed his sweetheart, Gracie Williams, York was taken aback by his welcoming home. He prevailed upon Tennessee Congressman and future Secretary of State Cordell Hull to facilitate a hasty return to his home. Throughout the 1920s, York went on speaking tours to endorse his hopes for education and raise money for the York Institute. The threat of war had renewed the interest of some filmmakers, most notably Jesse L. Lasky, into reviving the story of York's exploits during World War I. In the late 1930s, the world once again appeared on the verge of war, and the official stance of the United States government was suggestive of York's initial attitude toward the First World War. In 1937, York not only condemned war, but also questioned America's involvement in the First World War. Being a religious and peaceful man, York had fought his country's enemy only after great deliberation and had to be convinced that war was sometimes necessary. Because of the Church of Christ and Christian Union condemned movies as sinful, Lasky had a tough time convincing York that a film based on his life was justified. York finally agreed when he decided that the money made from the film could be used to create a diversified Bible school. As the film progressed, the focus of the project changed and York's heroic act gained prominence. Governor Prentice Cooper approved York's endorsement by naming him Chief Executive of the Fentress County Draft Board and appointed him to the Tennessee Preparedness Committee to help prepare for wartime. During the war, York attempted to re-enlist in the infantry, but could not do so due to age and obesity. Instead, through an affiliation with the Signal Corps, York traveled the country on bond tours, recruitment drives, and camp inspections. York's health began to deteriorate after the war in 1954. He suffered from a stroke that would leave him bedridden for the remainder of his life. York died on September 2, 1964, and was buried with the full military honors in the Pall Mall Cemetery. His funeral was attended by Governor Frank G. Clement and General Matthew Ridgway as President Lyndon B. Johnson's official representative.
For his efforts, York was awarded the Medal of Honor, the French Croix de Guerre, the Italian Croce di Guerra, and the American Distinguished Service Cross.